good team. I think they work very well together. It's not like that. It's not like when Mark Jones is on. When Mark Jones does a game, I'm like, oh my God. Like, I really can't watch the game. And I mean this, I have to mute the game. I don't mute the game with Chris Fowler. I'm fine with him. 631, I'll take 3/4 of an Al Michaels over most people. Again, I'm a big Al Michaels fan. I've always been an Al Michaels fan. Again, I talk about the greatest sportscasters of my life, where Kurt Gowdy, right? I mean, Kurt Gowdy was NBC. Dick Enberg. You talk about the great voices that CBS and Fox had with Pat Summerall, who not only did football, did the golf coverage, anchored the tennis coverage. And what I always admired about Pat Summerall is he didn't aspire to be a broadcaster. He was a professional football player and a kicker with the New York Giants and made the transition. That's a lot of things that fans don't understand. Very few, very, very few athletes ever transition into doing play-by-play. They're always analysts. There are exceptions. Frank Gifford, I thought he did a great job in his play-by-play when he did Monday Night Football. Pat Summerall, great. Not good, great. So there are very few that have come through as athletes that have then gone on to do play-by-play. Almost every single one of them are analysts or in the studio lending their expertise, most of whom are terrible, but very few. The Frank Giffords, the Pat Summeralls are the exceptions. They're few and far between. From the 916, Grant Kenny Albert is great. He can do any sport. And he is the only announcer that does all 4 sports. He's the only announcer in North America that does all 4 sports. This from the 916. Al Michaels on Thursday Night Football for nostalgic reasons. I will appreciate his analysis as long as I can. He is the best. Only sportscaster to ever do national news as it was happening. That's not true. Ted Koppel, going to him during the San Francisco earthquake was brilliant. That is true. His news reporting on the Bay Bridge counter lever section collapse during the 89 earthquake was brilliant to me. Correct, but you're wrong when you say he is the only sportscaster ever to do national news as it was happening. And maybe you're wrong because of your generation. So I'm not sliding you for this, and I'm not being critical of you for this, but I think that you need to understand that at the Munich Olympics and the awful, awful tragedy of the 1972 Olympics in Munich, when Jim McKay was the host, and back then, television was completely different than it is today, okay? The job that Jim McKay did during that crisis, okay, as a host of a sports event, the 1972 Munich massacre, just to give you a little history here, the terrorist attack carried out by several members of the Palestinian militant organization, taking the lives of, was so horrific. And Jim McKay, over a 24-hour period, where the end result was the deaths of the hostages, along with several others, and all 5 terrorists. The job that Jim McKay did on ABC during the Munich massacre, to this day, And you're right about Al Michaels. That's a good job by you there. To this day, is one of the greatest jobs of newscasting that I have ever witnessed, and I'm 66. It's not in a class by itself, but as Bump Phillips once said of Earl Campbell, it doesn't take long to call the roll. 11 Israeli athletes were murdered at the 1992 Munich Olympics, or 1972 Munich Olympics. And again, if you were alive during that time and you were somebody that can appreciate greatness, I don't know if I've ever seen an individual put on a different hat and do a job as good as Jim McKay did. It was, to this day, as good as any journalism, any job of broadcasting that I have ever seen. From the 916, Jim McKay, of course, with 4 exclamation points, brilliant with exclamation points. Very true. From the 631, McKay handled that situation with humility and class. Again, it's one of the great jobs ever. From the 916, thank you, Grant, for that history lesson on Jim McKay. I've got to go back and watch that. It is, I don't know if you could watch the whole thing because it spanned over basically a 24-hour period of time where Jim McKay did not leave his seat. And, I mean, I don't know what else to say. It was a horrific time in the world. And what happened at Munich, I'll never forget it. But I will never forget the job that Jim McKay did at the Olympics for ABC. To this day, it's as good as anything I've ever seen.